Welcome to Behind the DM Screen with WorldSmith, where we discuss all the tips, tricks, and pitfalls of being a dungeon master. I'm Cameron. I run the WorldSmith socials.
Oh, I'm Matt. I'm the CEO. You just sounded so professional.
Sorry,
man.
you want to?
I was like, no, this is perfect. Keep going. Yeah, your turn.
Yeah, and I'm Logan, one of the guys on the dev team.
And we are WorldSmith. Okay. Today we are going to be talking about the hacks, the life hacks of being a dungeon master. But before we get into that, we are going to roll to answer a Discord question. Our users every week give us some questions to answer. If one of you guys could just roll at D20 for me, we'll figure that out. Okay.
You're this one.
Oh, we have a lot of dice rolled.
The middle of the pack.
Okay, 13. Sure,
Right.
we'll run with 13. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Saphira Roars asks, my encounters are either too hard or too easy. How do I fix it? Let's roll another D20 for
Roll
initiative.
8.
Okay, Logan, you're
All
starting
right.
us off.
So encounter balancing is extremely difficult. I recently read an article by the guy who made Magic the Gathering, if y'all know who that is, or that game. And the whole entire article that he made is about how game balance is a myth. It does not exist.
It's an illusion.
And it's effectively, his whole thing was basically just talking about like the rule of cool. Like, you know, if the players are having fun, who cares about balance?
That's a good
And
point.
so, but as far as like actually answering the question, typically what I like to do is have like little like, I think of them as like balance levers in the like character sheet that, or like in the monster sheet that I can like look at and adjust and be like, oh, hey, maybe this, you know, this attack normally would do this much and have this condition possibly. Okay, maybe maybe it doesn't actually have that condition because the battle is going further along. Or another thing to do is to make the monster attack very predictably, changing based on, you know, what the players are doing. So like whoever attacked it last is who's going to get hit. So maybe, you know, the low health wizard is actually going to do something different instead of just trying to whack it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the choices you make with your monsters definitely impacts the balance of an encounter, right? Like if the big bad is going for the wizard every round, it's a hard encounter. If he's going for your tank barbarian, it's an easy encounter. So I guess changing the decisions you make as a dungeon master in combat can definitely alter the course of a battle. My favorite thing to do is let the players auto balance the combat by just giving them a crap ton of healing potions, because they will only use healing potions if it's a hard battle, and if it's an easy battle, then, you know, just keep fighting until you feel like the party's had enough. Some dungeon masters don't even keep track of hit points. I've seen some dungeon masters have told me, where they just like pretend to mark down the damage, and then they're like, ooh, yeah, he's pretty hurt, and he has no idea how many hit points the monster actually has.
That's a wild way to play it.
Yeah, it's just like straight out lying to your party, but
Once they've worked hard enough,
Yeah.
then the monster's dead.
that would piss me off as a player, so I wouldn't recommend that. But I have seen it happen, and I have seen it work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you got to be really keyed into your players, though, I think, for something like that. I actually enjoy the process of balancing as much as I can.
Mhm.
Again, like you guys kind of said, I think balancing to a degree is a myth. The CR system in D&D is... this is a controversial opinion, which is crazy, but I actually do think it's an okay starting point, you know?
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yes, it's never going to be totally balanced because you can give your players magic items, you can have people who min-max, and even just like variations in the number of players changes things dramatically. So I say start with CR, you know, and then honestly, the next big step is just take a look at what your players actually have. So by looking at, okay, you know, I have all spellcasters. I'm going to need to balance this a little bit more. Or we have a lot of good long range things, but no real tanks here in the fight in our party. Or even just looking at your players' ACs and things like that. The more time you put into it, the easier it is to make something balanced. But then, like you guys touched on as well, you do your best, and then in the middle of combat, your decisions as a DM or as the monster or whoever they're fighting can drastically change how difficult an encounter is. So if you feel like from the get-go it's getting a little bit too hard, as the monster, do something that's a little bit stupid. Unless that really goes against who you are in like meta gaming or something like that. But there's a lot of things that you can do, if the monster rolls poorly, make them punished for it, or they like get disoriented. There's lots of stuff you can do to make it a lot easier. Or you can always just chop their health in half or something in the middle of the fight. Or they get scared from maybe this monster was traumatized by fire as a kid, and like all of a sudden somebody brings out flame and it runs away, even though it wasn't. It wouldn't have needed to. So
no, just like add or subtract hit points mid combat. If you feel like you want the combat to last another round, make it last another round. Okay. But also don't be afraid to have super easy combats and super hard combats, because as a player, I've never complained about something being too easy because it makes me feel cool fighting that thing. But if it's too hard, then that's a wake-up call for the party that maybe not all monsters are meant to be fought. Yeah, I think both directions are equally cool for a dungeon master to take.
That's actually a really good point. I feel pretty strongly that you should not power scale your games to your players, right? It's like the classic anime.
It's like Dark
trope,
Souls, where someone's just going to destroy you if you're not ready for it.
That should be the case in D&D, in the Forgotten Realms, in your homebrew campaigns. You should have immensely powerful beings and extremely weak squishy beings all over the place, right? So if every single place they go, the monsters they're fighting are exactly as strong as they are, that's going to be unexciting to your players. It's going to be a little bit boring. Whereas if you have, I don't know, they run into a demon lord every so often, and they're just like, I'm going to stay as silent and quiet as I can and just hope that I get out of here, Or they run into like a low level like bandit or something that's like, I'm gonna mug you guys, right? And then you guys just like obliterate him in one move, like that's the way the world would be in these kind of settings. So I think you should include that.
I had an encounter like that last one where it was like, some bandits greatly underestimating who the players were and tried to kidnap one of them, and the player rolled a nat 1 on like a DC 10 to like not get knocked out from their like sleep like poison that they were using. And so all of the other players were like, what? And like drastically were like, oh no, this is gonna be super difficult, and then one shot all of them, and they were like,
I like the idea of the bandits taking this over-leveled party member back to their camp, and then he wakes up and just like slaughters the camp because he's way better than them.
They think that it was like his plan all along, but really he just got super unlucky.
All right, we should move on to our puzzler now. Matt, can you give us a recap on what last week's puzzler is?
Yeah, of course. So if you have a party and they're divided in where they want the campaign story to go, what do you do as a dungeon master? So our scenario that like kind of brought this on was I had a party that really loved being part of a guild that they were infiltrating. So for part of the quest, they had to steal an artifact from this guild, which essentially destroyed this guild. So we got to this point where they would steal the artifact, and half the party wanted to take it and continue with the main quest, and the other half of the party wanted to leave it and stay a part of this guild long term and forget the main quest. So in that kind of scenario, how do you run the situation? How do you help your players make the right decision or a decision at all? How do you deal with conflict?
Yeah, that's a really tricky question, because that's one of the questions where it's like, do you address this in the game or out of game, right?
Totally.
We actually had a comment on YouTube respond to this. Team Sandbox says, gotta let what the majority of the group wants to do. However, if some of the players are frustrated with the idea of moving away from the main campaign goal, you can always incorporate parts of the main campaign goal so that it dissipates into the guild itself, making the players who join the guild not divert away from the main goal. I think that's a pretty good response. Essentially, what it's doing is it's allowing you as the dungeon master to still recycle what you have planned in a different way. However, it doesn't necessarily respond to the character's motives because every player is playing a complex character who, some don't want to be part of the guild. So do they just make new characters? Yeah, that's kind of tricky. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, so definitely comes down to, I liked how you phrased it and like how you framed this with saying like, oh, do you handle this in game or out of game? And I think for me, I kind of knowing my players out of game would definitely change what the answer is, because I've got some players who would love the opportunity to roll up another set of characters. Like they always have one in their back pocket that they're ready to play. So they'd love to roll up a new set and maybe, and they would even be more excited with the possibility of coming back with their old characters as, villainous NPC.
Sure.
Or like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Actually split the party long term. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way of doing it.
So would you play like a certain party every other session, or is this like you're just turning a certain batch of characters into a group of NPCs that will return later?
Yeah, it's turning them into the latter. So like turning them into NPCs that the players aren't, like turning the player characters that, whichever,
Minority group.
Yeah, whichever's the minority group or whichever is more acceptable to it, it could just be like, maybe, okay, cool, we're having a guild campaign now because the people who are outside of the guild are like, yeah, I'll roll up some new guild characters. Or, the other, yeah.
Yeah, I think what's so tricky about this is every part of me wants to like rule any disagreement in game. I love the thought of like role playing a disagreement to the point where you have like two halves of the party fighting each other over something. But the harsh truth is a lot of players will never like deal any damage to another player just out of motive or morals. I mean, like, so honestly, the most realistic thing that would probably happen is the party would want to split up, in which case you would unfortunately have to go out of game and say, okay, we're at a crossroads. What are we going to do? I think the NPC idea is probably the best route to go with this.
It's a great path to take, honestly.
But then you have to talk with the players and ask which of you want NPCs and which of you want to, keep playing your character. What did you do about this, Matt?
So it was a tough scenario. I think I kind of set myself up for failure, I'll be honest, because this thing was an artifact that as soon as they grabbed it, like, end game for this guild, essentially, right? So we had one player in the party who was a little bit more of the just like natural leader. He was the only one in the group who had actually played D&D in the past, so he just kind of naturally took initiative more often, and he was in part of the group that wanted to keep going with the main campaign. So he just
kind of drove the decision.
Yeah, he just, without really, there was some conflict initially. They were like, what do we do? And then he just went and grabbed it. And like, I could see the party, so it was 3 people who wanted to keep going and 2 that wanted to stay. And I could just like see them be like a little,
they don't have the confidence to like address
and they look
it.
at me to be like, do I grab it? Like wanting to say something like that, but they never did. So it's just a little bit of an awkward end to the scenario. And that's part of why I wanted to bring it up, because I didn't feel great about that ending. And I knew that I didn't end up doing what everybody in the party wanted to do. Which I think in best collaborative storytelling, you're able to pretty much fit everybody's needs. But
I wouldn't put that all on yourself though,
totally,
because you're just DMing it.
Yeah.
In theory, if this table was full of experienced players, not a single one would not be afraid to speak up and say, heck no, I'm casting hold person,
Right.
But when you have a party of people who are kind of nervous to get out of their shells, it can be tough. And I think that segues nicely into our conversation, which is what are some life hacks at the D&D table that improve your game? Now, this is a broad topic because obviously you have the social life hacks, things that help shy players get out of their shells, but you also have the rule life hacks, homebrew rules where you completely change, remove, or add your own custom rule to D&D. So to start this conversation, do you guys have any rules that aren't in the book, or have you guys ever removed or changed rules entirely from D&D just because they don't work?
I mean, I've got a few. I've never, and like these are pretty common ones to do. I've never really liked initiative, or sorry, not initiative, inspiration.
Oh yeah,
The way that's run in the game. So I always, as a homebrew rule, just scratch that, and I just say, okay, if you get an initiative token or you get one tracker of initiative, right, then you can just automatically re-roll any roll at any point. So I mean, that's the way I run initiative, or sorry, inspiration.
Yeah.
Gosh dang. But
what's the core book rule for an inspiration?
Like you get like 1 point, and then
I know you can only have at most one.
yeah,
but it can only be used on certain things. It's
on
pretty
certain
restrictive.
things, and then it's like I think there's 1d4 for most scenarios you get to add to your past roll. Right?
I think that might be a homebrew rule.
Is that also a homebrew rule?
I think the official rule is you re-roll it, and the homebrew rule is you can like add a D10 or a D8 to the roll.
No.
Do
I do the real rule?
I think you, at least in the 2024 handbook, that's definitely how it is.
I don't think it is in the 2014 though. It can't be.
Well, there's
right?
Bardic Inspiration
look.
where you add the roll.
Yeah.
Which I was actually gonna say the opposite.
Can't be
I
right.
I like changing the rule.
No,
so that
you're wrong.
No, hear me out. You can add as many inspirations as you want to a character sheet.
Yeah.
So that you're incentivized to keep.
Well,
role-playing.
I also let people continue
Stack
to
'em.
get
Okay.
inspiration. But
humans in the new 2024 rule book
Oh, yeah.
are busted because
They get one per long rest. Just
every
for free.
inspiration or every long rest you just get a free inspiration, and it's just like the lucky feat kind of, but a little worse, I guess.
Yeah. I also think they did change the lucky feat as well.
Yes, they did.
And made it, in my opinion, it's so much more balanced now.
Yeah, don't you have to wait till level 8 to get that?
I think it's actually the one where is it an origin feat? So it's like not just anybody can get it. You have to like actually be the background.
Interesting. Okay.
I might be mistaken.
That is one thing I do like about the book is it feels like everyone gets a decent feat at the start, and it's not just like pick halfling or pick human because those are the two with the best species traits.
I mean, there's a reason that like those two are the most popular, or like mainly variant human, where it's like, oh, start off with a feat, and it's like, oh, yeah, I definitely want to pick that because I want like, not all feats are created equal, and so it's like if you want a little bit of extra flavor, then it's cool, and also if you want a little bit of extra power, then it's like, yeah, both of those things really want feats.
I wish there was a way to reward players more easily for choosing a feat that just sucks. Like I have a barbarian who loves to cook.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So he took the chef feat,
Right.
and he multi-classed one level into druid just so he could like cast Goodberry and stuff. And like it is so inefficient. I ended up creating a custom like cooking rule set just so that he could like stay on the power level with everyone else while still, letting him role play as a chef in his off time. And it's turned out pretty fun. Matt, what'd you find out?
they have like 2 whole pages on here about inspiration, but it's all about like awarding it. Maybe it's in the player.
It could be in the player.
Huh.
Yeah.
Probably is.
But I'll come back to you. Still no answer yet.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that segues into a homebrew rule that I actually had for a while. This was just for 2014. I think the 2024, the fact that feats now pretty much all give all have like +1 to choose one of these 3 like ability scores.
Yeah.
Fixes this, but I used to make it to where every like point where you would get ability score or feat, you just got both. You get
Oh, nice.
because that way your numbers aren't falling behind, but you're still getting to add in those flavor things.
Yeah, I've done that in a different way, where I make it so that if like when you roll your hit points when you level up, I make it so that it's half rounded up is the minimum you can get. But the downside to that is your players get really strong really fast when they have a lot of health. Did you find running that rule set that it was just like a pain in the ass to like run these players with crazy stats and abilities?
A little bit, because I also actually did the same thing with HP dice, because I was like, HP is so important. Like,
Right. And it sucks so bad when like the barbarian rolls a 1 and the wizard
Oh my
rolls a
goodness.
6, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, guess we have a new tank in the party.
Yeah.
But I found like, you know, there's plenty of monsters with really high CR. So
Mhm.
like if you need to go up a couple of CR levels as your base,
Sure.
that works.
Yeah.
I will admit, like when I first started doing that, it did kind of feel bad on my end where I was like, oh man, all of my monsters are getting destroyed. But then I kind of had a bit of like a refocus of like, wait, I'm not here to like play a monster to fight the party.
Yeah.
I'm here to like make a really cool story and to have like help the players have fun.
Uh-huh.
And so I started designing combats more around like, oh, will they all get to do the thing that they came and built their character to do?
Sure. Yeah. And when in doubt, just double the monsters, right?
Yeah,
There you
exactly.
go. Twice the hit points.
And double the AC, you know?
Matt, you're still looking for
You
it.
know, I found it.
You found it? And
You
it's
were right.
re-roll a dice.
Right. But I don't believe it, even though I saw it in the book. So I'm double checking on
so
Google.
Matt's custom homebrew rule is sticking to the rules and thinking that he's breaking the rules.
I just, for some reason, I don't know why I thought that. I just have only, like, for so long,
Well,
most of the games
'kay,
I've played
when
use that other
when I
homebrew rule.
started playing D&D, first game ever, my dungeon master was convinced that
Yeah.
inspiration was a stackable trait that gave you 1d8 to the roll.
Yeah.
And that's how I always played it. And I kind of was in the same boat where I was shocked to find out what the real rule was.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the D8 rule or the D10 rule because you could stack them and
I
really
still-
pay it off for like role playing your character well.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. It almost makes things complicated. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, I think part of my problem is I've always played with, like, newer players. I'm
Mhm.
mostly a DM for
Yeah.
groups of people who are new to D&D. And I'll,
Sure.
like, play with them for a really long time, and it's great. But I've always found that, like, essentially giving someone advantage is, like, or double advantage. I still
Yeah.
let people stack and stuff like that, and you can hold more than one inspiration. But, I don't know, I've always found it a little bit easier than anything else, yeah.
So I actually have a major DM life hack regarding inspiration. I have trained my party to give me treats every single session by rewarding them inspiration.
That is a good hack. Yeah.
Our barbarian, the chef barbarian, genuinely makes a 4-course meal every single session.
What?
My party, this is the best party I've ever played with. My other party members actively buy me miniatures. Like, it is a shock when I'm not gifted something every session.
Yeah.
And I will always just give them an inspiration if they did that, because I'm like, you're
So
just a
somebody
homie.
brings you a miniature and they're like, "Here you go," and you're like, "Here's an
Here's
inspiration."
an inspiration. And it's, I don't know, it
like
just really improves the game.
It's like training your pet.
Yeah,
like,
no,
to
that
have
genuinely.
good behavior.
Yeah, so that's kind of a hack. You
That's
know?
a great hack. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of social hacks like that. By the way, don't like expect ever gifts necessarily. But also, if you're a player and you've been playing D&D for a long time with a dungeon master, maybe give them like a birthday gift or something. Like,
Yeah. DMs deserve to be appreciated.
yeah. I want to know the stats on that, like DMs to players, because I'm pretty sure we still have a major dungeon master deficit.
Oh yeah,
Huge,
it's
huge.
yeah.
We are a rare breed, if you will.
Oh yeah, we're not like your average guy.
We are built different. Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
those
funny.
are good. Those are good homebrew rules,
Yeah.
though. I guess. Yeah.
I was gonna say this. I guess this puts me in the minority at this table on doing inspiration,
Yeah.
because to be honest, I kind of forget about it pretty often. But what I normally kind of do in like replacement is when a character is doing something particularly like, oh yeah, like this is really important to like your backstory or something that the character is like prepared ahead of time, then I'm pretty like free with like, oh yeah, here, have advantage, or like be like, oh yeah, for this specific role you're gonna act like you have expertise, or like add a D4 or whatever. Like
That's interesting. Like I know Baldur's Gate kind of ties inspiration to a lot of their quest lines. Like when you reach a certain benchmark with a character, you can just expect an inspiration to be given.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's like a route to be taken with questing in D&D where it's like you complete this quest, you can expect to get an inspiration.
Well, I just read about it.
Oh, did you?
In the D&D.
Yeah, what did it say?
It actually had some guidelines for like when you should
Mhm.
be giving people inspiration.
Do they
and
suggest
stuff.
it's a rare occasion?
They didn't necessarily say they didn't say like how often,
Mhm.
but they suggested like after a major victory or milestone
Mhm.
and stuff like that. It seemed like there was a decent amount of places where you could give someone inspiration for. So I mean, give your players inspiration more, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Not only when they buy you presents.
Yeah, not only then, but keep doing it, you guys,
Yeah.
please. They probably watch this podcast. That's why I'm referring to you directly. How do you guys do healing potions?
I am a fan of it's if you do a bonus action, like you can take them as a bonus action
Mhm.
and it's just the roll. If you use your full action, you get max HP that you could have rolled from the
Okay,
potion.
I do the same, except I do max HP if you use your action. You have to roll for it as a bonus action, or you could drink it as a free action, but you don't get that plus benefit. You know how it's always like
Oh.
44 plus 4?
Yeah.
You don't get that plus
Interesting.
benefit. And the reason why I do that is because I feel like it's so there's so many downsides to taking an action of drinking a potion.
Even just taking somebody's bonus action too.
right, yeah. And so I think giving players options to do that is just good.
That's a really good idea. I did the same thing that you do, and that's pretty nice. It'd be nice to be able to have something, even just a little bit of a boost as a
Definitely.
free action.
I'm definitely gonna steal that.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Yeah.
like, no, especially with the new rules, like every class got like, I think like pretty much everything has a bonus action now.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
there's always something that they want to be doing.
Yeah. Also, potions are so expensive in D&D.
Yeah.
I think, like, I honestly, I want to be giving away so many potions every single session just because they add. We were kind of talking about it in the beginning of this where I said you can balance encounters just by giving your players lots of healing potions.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, don't forget to drop those in chests whenever you can.
Yeah.
That's something WorldSmith does a lot, too. I always see them just, like, tossing in a couple healing potions into the description of the chest or whatever.
Yeah, that's part of why I actually really like using really big fleshed out stat sheets from
Mhm.
WorldSmith because it always includes loot. Because the D&D world, especially if you follow the prices online, are very expensive.
Yeah.
Given how important like one gold piece would be to the typical person or
It's
commoner,
$100 per gold coin.
Yeah, it's
And
like,
$100 for a peasant is insane.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden everything is costing multiple gold pieces, if not a ton of it. You know, it just doesn't make sense unless you're giving your players gold
Right.
all the time. So, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Do you get? Oh, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of like speaking of like bonus action economy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all? This is a rule that I throw out, which
Okay.
is you can only cast one spell per turn.
Oh, I hate this rule. I've never gone against it, but I hate this rule. You should be able to Misty Step and Fireball in the same
Yeah,
turn.
I'm like, if your spell says bonus action, like it says bonus action, it should be balanced around
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't make. You disagree with this?
I do a little bit, yeah, but
Uh-huh.
that's just I think I never really had any problem with the rule. I was like, oh, that just makes it a little more complicated. You got to be careful.
There's
So, I
just
mean-
there's just so few amount of spells that require a bonus action specifically that I feel like you should be rewarded for using a bonus action spell and an action spell. Like you're using up 2 big spell slots at the same time. It's expensive,
Yeah.
but I feel like magic casters should be allowed that kind of flexibility.
Well, and the worst is when someone picks sorcerer and decides to meta magic quicken it, and then go, I want to use my action to cast a spell. It's like, technically you can't.
That happened to me, and that was when I first found out about the rule as I built a sorcerer around this build I had in mind, where I was like, oh, I'm going to be, my action economy is going to be perfect. And then DM ruined it.
It is really tough if you are specifically trying to chain combos, kind of a deal, So if you, I don't know, I feel like that's one that's also pretty easy to make exceptions for. I think I still will probably follow that rule for the most part, but if somebody comes up to me and they're like, hey, I built this really specific build where I chain this and then this as a bonus action. It does way more damage and it does it in this cool way. And I'll be like, yeah, of course. Like if the player's getting excited about something that they can do and they're investing time into it, then of course I'm going to reward that. But
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
I guess one thing that to come over to your side a little bit, using your reaction to counterspell, you
Yeah, there
can't
are some
do that.
places where that's way too powerful, honestly.
Like the wizard who casts Fireball, and then that doesn't get to counterspell the counterspell.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to be a different party member because
Yeah.
it can't cast 2 spells in the same turn.
Wait,
technically,
you can't counterspell after casting a leveled spell?
if it's your turn,
If it's your turn.
because it's 1 spell per turn,
Right.
even though it's your reaction.
What?
But that makes you way more careful with things.
I guess that does nerf spellcasters in a viable way, but as a spellcaster, you're doing nothing but casting a spell every turn. Why would you ever anticipate that someone might cast a spell so you do nothing on your turn? It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm trying to think of a scenario where it would make sense as a wizard.
I don't like it.
I mean, part of it is just a lot of times in D&D, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, a round is 6 seconds, and so it's like, oh, it's super trivial to cast a spell.
Sure.
But like, if you think about it, like,
You can only say so many words and smash
Okay.
so many diamonds in one.
Say that to the
turn.
fighter who's attacking at a rate of like 0.5 seconds per attack.
or the
Like
Fighters are
Tabaxi
just
monk.
faster.
how many attacks can a fighter get at max level? Isn't it like with action surge 8 or 10?
Well, if it's in 2024, they got another one, if I'm not
Oh
mistaken.
my goodness.
Yeah.
What?
And
that makes
then
me sick.
on top of that, it's even easier to use your bonus action for another attack.
Yeah. Or you load up a sentinel based paladin,
Oh
dude.
my goodness.
You're
Don't talk
stopping
to me.
people, pushing them back, attacking 3 times. Like
I still think there should be a way to get more reactions in D&D. I think
Yeah.
that's like an untapped thing.
It is kind of fun when monsters have, because like there are monsters that have that.
Oh, do they?
It like almost never comes up. Like I recently had one where it's like a boss battle against like a Hydra, and a Hydra, at least the stat block I was using, it had a reaction per head.
Mm-hmm.
So as the battle went on, it had less because they were cutting down heads.
Right.
Literally didn't even use a reaction a single time that whole fight because players never move out of range of attack.
yeah.
I'm equally guilty of being a monster and never moving during a combat because why would you? It's just a bunch of opportunity attacks.
Yeah.
So it's almost always the players crowd around the monster.
And then nobody moves.
Yeah.
Unless there's like some other objective in the room.
I guess that's a good DM hack is just add a passive ability can take disengage action for free. There you go.
For your
Or like a
monsters, for
legendary
your
action,
monsters.
right?
Or the other one is put stuff around the room so that players
Yeah.
have to move,
Yeah.
like
Oh, that's
either
good.
out of the way of something that's going to hit them, or
Yeah.
like there's some sort of objective where they have to like to damage the monster, like maybe after the monster takes a certain amount of HP, they have to go and
You have
like
to go
reset something around
reset
the
a
room.
rune in the other side of the rune. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there's
That's
like
a great idea,
a
actually.
suspiciously hanging, low-bearing like chandelier that you need to shoot while the monster's below it or something.
You need to get the monster over here,
Yeah.
and then you need to go and chop.
Man,
some
I feel-
chandelier.
As a dungeon master, I don't use my map like that enough.
It's so hard because like you have to design. You're doing like a full game designer
Right.
level thing.
Yeah.
So you have to
Yeah.
design a good level,
Yeah.
and then
It has to
To
be
do the
clear
really
for the
interesting-
players to understand, which is
And-
half the battle.
if you start adding 3D to it,
Yep.
that just oh my goodness, that
Got
adds
stairs,
so
a
much-
balcony.
Baby steps. Baby
Yeah,
steps.
that does get kind of tricky. Okay, well, we are starting to run out of time. I guess before we end, I wanted to ask one last question that addresses the question we had in the. I guess it would address the puzzler. You have a new party, okay? You have a new party of players. How do you get them involved and comfortable at the table? Do you have any hacks, things that you do to break the ice?
Is this a new party of players in general, or are they new to D&D?
I'm gonna say they're new to D&D.
Okay.
I think we are reaching a point in D&D's history where we have an influx of new players, and a lot of them are just too scared to keep going because it's very intimidating for them.
I love this question because once upon a time I was new to D&D, and I
Weren't
played,
we all?
Yeah, and I played with people who made me extremely comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite thing to do is
Mhm.
convert people to D&D and introduce them to this hobby that will suck their life away. It's the best. It's my favorite thing to do, honestly. So I actually have a few things that I do. The first one is I make when a new player is starting D&D, it's really tempting to build your character sheet and then not worry too much about your background, right? Because a lot of the character sheet builders and tools that are very helpful, especially to new D&D players, don't put a huge emphasis on background and stuff like that.
They do not.
So I say the first thing that I always do is hop on a phone call with that one player and I say, hey, like, think about who you want to be and what their story is.
Yeah.
And then once they have that, I say, make your character sheet, right? And then make sure that I have access to what their background is. And the reason why that's so important is it gets them way more invested. They know what kind of a character they want to build going into it, so they're not just like overwhelmed by all these little decisions because they have a persona that is guiding their decisions. And then also it gets them way more excited when you as a DM use their backstory consistently in the campaign, and it makes your job a lot easier as a DM as well. So I think that like really emphasizing the backstory of a new player is the most important thing that you can do, whether it's in their creation or you as a DM. But I also think there are a lot of little things that you can do along the way. Spell casting is something that's really like difficult for new players to understand, and so is even just actions in general. So one thing that I love to do is just get these cards right here, you know, the spell cards, or even they have some blank ones that I will like Sharpie on that say what their actions are, and just giving somebody like 5 or 6 cards, which is all you need at like a low level, just makes it really, really easy for the player to know like, oh, okay, I have like 2 of these that I can do, or I can cast this spell a couple times, you know, and just like mark things off, and it just makes life way easier because they're gonna forget what their spells are. They're not familiar with everybody else's spells, but just having something to look at makes it way, way less intimidating for them. So I think those are 2 things that, for me, make it easiest to run with a new player.
And I would definitely echo like that story emphasis point, because like what I like to ask when they're building their story is like, what kind of player or like what kind of character are you excited to play? What kind of scenes are you hoping that you get to act out? And then try to like lob those up to the player. I found especially asking the question like, what are they excited to do, has helped a lot, because then when I'm setting up that scene, I can even like, for the more experienced player, I'll just be like, this person enters, and then let them describe it, and they'll like, you know, they will describe the ambiance and everything. But for someone who it's their new time, I'll be like, hey, here is, like, as I'm describing what's going on, I'll be like, okay, so you're in this tavern, and I'll even say like, you know, maybe amp the player up by saying, yes, your character is feeling this. Your character has this kind of backstory and is probably, you know, remembering this and feeling like this. And then it just like does a little bit of the work for them, where they can like actually be like, oh yeah, I am feeling like this. And if I were feeling like that with this backstory, knowing these things, this is what I will say and act.
That's a really good point. From both of you guys, something I do is I just think of a magic item that makes the player feel really unique and is integrated in their backstory, and I give it to them early on. I had a really good experience with this using WorldSmith, actually, where I had a new player. He was a rogue and new to D&D. I generate a magic dagger. It has like 5 charges per rest, and you can spend a bonus action as a charge to teleport to your dagger if it's within like 60 feet. Actually, I don't even think there was a range. So like now you have this rogue who in combat was like throwing a dagger at someone, and then you could either teleport to the dagger or have the dagger teleport back to you. And so suddenly combat is just way different for this one player.
Got some yellow flash of the leaf, dude.
Dude,
what's Naruto's dad's name?
Well, I was thinking more like Blink from X-Men.
Oh yeah, Blink as
Both
well,
great
yeah.
examples. Yeah. I think players love to feel unique. To your point with the backstory, if we were all just playing characters with no names, no backstories, just stats and abilities, D&D would be the most boring game of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, it is like arguably the combat, it's not very exciting, but the fact that it's you with your life on the line and your character can die or your character can survive, that's what makes D&D D&D, you know?
Yeah.
The relationships you make over a year. That's why arguably the game gets more fun the longer you play, is because it's just a continuation of a story that everyone at the table cares about.
I actually have one more thing that I think changes the game a lot. And this is something that most DMs, in my experience, don't do. If you have new players, let them know the other players before the session starts. Even
interesting.
Session 1. I know that's not what anybody does. It's typically
Controversial take.
Yeah, you take your player, you build it, and then everybody introduces themselves at the table. And you can still have that kind of a setup, but if you, like, especially new people who are a little bit nervous about role playing, the idea of like introducing their characters to each other.
It can be intimidating.
Yeah, and even just like starting to build a bond with other players at the table is just something that I've found is really difficult for people to do organically and feel real.
Yeah.
Well, and even like that reminds me of, I think it's, if y'all know NADPOD, Not Another D&D Podcast.
Yeah.
If I remember right, they actually play like with their characters. I know it's at least one like session before they even like start the campaign.
Oh,
and I'm
I
pretty
see.
sure some other like professionals do this, you know?
Yeah.
It's like they have
Get all the kinks out.
like so that way they're not role playing the character for the first time live, but it also does the same thing here.
That's super
a good
helpful.
idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you're able to like have a pre-session 0 session, you know, like where everybody plays together, almost like a one shot just to get comfortable, that's obviously very helpful. But I mean, if you have like 2 or 3 people that knew each other beforehand, right? And they're the new players, or maybe one of them's an experienced player who can help them out, right? Like just being able to say like, oh, this guy's my friend, you know, and they like just joke around with each other and it doesn't feel stupid because that's what they do. That's their friends, you know, that's their backstory, you know. That just helps people feel a lot more comfortable role playing and not feeling like they're imposing on other people just when they're getting started. So
Jack did well in managing that in our WorldSmith campaign.
Yeah.
The main campaign didn't even like come into play until like 3 or 4 sessions in.
yeah.
And like the first few sessions obviously were like awkward and we weren't sure about our characters. But by the time the like real plot hook happened, we were like ready to go and we were stoked about our characters. So
Also,
great points. Yeah.
Another thing that I found that helps is like don't purposely mess up, but like as a DM, like show that you're committed into the role play first, like through some NPCs, and like maybe try an accent. Like if you're not someone who does accents,
That's a huge DM.
try
hack.
like a dumb accent and like
Make
look
a
silly.
fool out of yourself. Don't be afraid. If you are a shy dungeon master, your players will be just as shy as you.
They'll be more shy.
Probably,
Always,
yeah.
And it like
Yeah,
That's like we should have started this podcast with that tip. That is such a helpful tip.
that's why Jack Rose is one of my favorite DMs ever, because he started off one of my first sessions with him doing this like huge long guttural goblin mating call in front of
so
all of us,
great.
and I was like, I feel so comfortable
But
'cause if
uncomfortable
he's-
at the same time.
Exactly, you know, like if he's willing to do this, everybody's laughing. If you're okay to be laughed at, like a little bit, like people are laughing with you. You know? Like it just makes everybody happy, relaxed.
Don't be too
Yeah,
serious.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyways, we are running out of time, so thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment down below, like, subscribe, join our Discord, link in the bio. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, guys.